federal prosecutors from Manhattan are looking into Trump's inaugural committee. In fact, that committee is currently being investigated. And just to be absolutely clear from the get-go, this investigation has nothing to do with Mueller's investigation into Russian meddling in the election or obstruction of justice. This is a completely separate investigation. And what it seeks to do is look into the way in which the inaugural committee obtained the amount of money it did and how that money was spent. Now, one of the topics that we talk about in relation to Mueller's investigation is whether or not there was some money laundering involved, right? Is Mueller looking into money laundering? Well, whether or not he's doing it is still a big question, but it appears that these federal prosecutors are looking into money laundering. So let me give you the details according to the New York Times. The federal subpoena seeks documents related to all of the committee's donors and guests, any benefits handed out, including tickets and photo opportunities with the president, federal disclosure filings, vendors, contracts, and more. Prosecutors are interested in potential money laundering as well as election fraud. So that's what we know so far, and I think it's important to look into that. One interesting thing that I learned through this story that I actually hadn't known before, when it came to previous presidents and their inauguration, they usually have limits on how much certain donors can give them. I didn't know this about Obama, but he actually banned corporate donations for the inauguration specifically. And other presidents have done similar things. When it came to the Trump inaugural committee, there were no limits. He had no interest in limits, and that was kind of unprecedented.
Yeah, of course. So they raised a record $107 million. They spent it like crazy. Remember, the inauguration planning and execution only takes a couple of months because the election is in November and the inauguration is in January. Spending $107 million in that tight window, that's an accomplishment. And so there's two things here that I want to note that are interesting. But before I even get to that, I actually want to give you overall context. Look, if this is nickel and dime stuff, I'm not interested. So I actually have a high bar for this. Because if you looked into any inaugural committee, I bet if you look into Obama's, Bush's, you go back at Clinton's, et cetera, right? You're gonna find some irregularities. And so if it's like, hey, it turns out 3 foreigners gave $25 a piece, one guy from Hungary, the other guy from Canada, et cetera. That's not an interesting story.
So yeah, and I don't think that that's, so they are looking into possible foreign contributions to the inaugural committee, which is a crime, right? I don't think they're looking into like petty cash situations.
No, we don't, but we don't know, okay? I'm just saying, to me, you have to find real wrongdoing here, not just mistakes or being a little too generous with what how you classify things, et cetera, right? So where are the possible issues here? And I'm not saying these folks did it and they're guilty. You got to go through a whole process here. And I say that not just as a generic thing, but because we really don't know, okay? But there are two things that make you go, One is Imad Zuberi. He's a former fundraiser, actually for Obama and Hillary Clinton. And he gave $900,000 to the inaugural committee of Trump. Now, do you think that he was really moved by Barack Obama, then Hillary Clinton, that's why he gave them a lot of money. And then as soon as Hillary Clinton lost, he was immediately moved by Donald Trump and gave him money and a giant amount? Or could he be looking for favors for his company, Avenue Ventures? Now, but even so, that could be perfectly legal because our system allows for a lot of legalized bribery.
Yes.
And so this guy, and don't even hold him to even more account unless there's more to this than anyone else, because ExxonMobil does the same thing. Pfizer does the same thing. They all go, oh yeah, Clinton, you're awesome. Oh, you didn't win? Never mind, Trump, you're awesome. Keep giving me subsidies and monopolies and all the other things that I want and lower my taxes. So he's just doing what every other company does from what we know on the outside. But apparently they're looking into him, and so that's interesting. Did he want specific favors? Did he make any kind of deals? Well, that would then be cross over to illegal, and so we'll see. We reserve judgment. Now, the other one is very interesting. It's Miss Winston Wolkoff, Stephanie Winston Wolkoff. She was part of the inaugural festivities in planning it and getting paid for it, then later became an advisor to Melania Trump, the first lady. She was fired from that post in early 2018 when these stories started to come out. Do you know how much she got for just a couple of months' work? $26 million. Okay, now look, she's got staffers, they gotta get chairs and all that stuff for the people that show up they gotta throw fancy parties with champagne, etc. Okay, but $26 million. But look, this is the more interesting part. Her company made a $1.6 million commission, again, for like maybe 2 months' work, okay? But where did the rest of the money go? So why did they funnel $26 million over there? Where did it go? Maybe they look into it and they find out, oh no, it really went to champagne and lobster and filet mignon, and man, they ate a lot, right? It's possible. Or they find out, oh, and because the thing that clues me into that, and all of us into that, is that the prosecutors are talking literally about money laundering, which is a weird thing to be talking about in the context of the inauguration.
Yes.
So then when you look at those big sums moving back and forth, you go, oh, I wonder if they have evidence of where they came from and where they went to. And again, you cannot take money from foreign sources. And I don't know where they went. That's a whole different interesting question. But if they uncover that, I mean, look, Chris Christie, still a supporter of Donald Trump, still defending him on 18 different things on TV today, saying that's worse than the Mueller situation and a real cause of concern for Trump. And of course, Sarah Sanders came out and said, oh no, that's got nothing to do with us.
Well, let's hear from Sarah Sanders. She did make an appearance to respond to this investigation, so let's take a look at what she has to say.
I'm reading the same reports you are this morning and gathering that information. What I do know at this point is this has nothing to do with the White House, and for anything specific and further, I'd refer you back to the Trump Inaugural Committee.
This has nothing to do with the White House.
Come on.
Trump inauguration has nothing to do with Trump. She has in the past said that Trump's campaign chairman has nothing to do with Trump. She has said that Trump's personal attorney has nothing to do with Trump. There's only one thing left where they're like, okay, they have arrested Donald J. Trump. She's like, well, good news is he's got nothing to do with Trump.
So there is one other part of this that actually does have something to do with Trump and Jared Kushner specifically. So one of the things the prosecutors are looking into is not just money laundering, but potential self-dealing in the inaugural festivities. So they the subpoena specifically mentions a company known as Stripe. So let me give you the details on that. The subpoena seeks documents on Stripe, which created technology to process credit card transactions. The company counts Josh Kushner, the brother of Mr. Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, among its investors. So Jared Kushner's brother is invested in this company called Stripe. Stripe is used for the inaugural festivities in order to process money. That's all we know so far. I don't want to speculate as to what the potential issues are there, but
yeah, no, I have no idea. It's weird because Stripe's a huge company. So, and the fact that he's an investor is not that interesting. A huge company like that wouldn't be very surprising if they took a big risk to do something illegal. So I don't know why their name's mentioned at all, but that's why they're gonna do the investigation, and I guess we'll find out at some point. By the way, Brooklyn has a separate investigation going, the US attorney in Brooklyn, and that is also about the inauguration and foreigners illegally funneling donations through straw donors. So you'll say, oh, Bob in Brooklyn is giving $850,000, as a hypothetical to the Trump inauguration. You're like, Bob lives in a 1-bedroom apartment. How did he get that kind of? It turns out, no, Bob is funneling the money for the Chinese, and then the Chinese are looking for favors. That would be one hypothetical, for example. So did they do that? How often did they do that? That's important.
Man, these tricky pizzicky things rich people do. Like, all right.
You gotta go find Bob in Brooklyn. You gotta pay him off to pay off Trump. Yes, it is quite the hassle.
Is there like a special crook school they all go to like learn all these little loopholes?
I think there is. I think it's called Trump University.
Yeah, fair enough.
Like what you see? Click the subscribe button below and don't forget to ring the bell to never miss another video from the Young Turks.